Layoffs, cut production. The negative consequences of crazy production expansion have emerged. Hundreds of photovoltaic companies may be squeezed out of the poker table. Half of the crystal pulling capacity has been stopped. The workshop used to work in 3 shifts, but now it works in 4 shifts. Employees can be granted leave when they ask for it, and they can take as many days as they want. Someone named Li from a photovoltaic company in Hebei told us that many of his friends are engaged in photovoltaic manufacturing across the country and have personal experience of the coming photovoltaic crash. He also revealed that the crystal pulling process of a photovoltaic company in Yunnan hasn't been operating for nearly half the time. In terms of production capacity, the wafer pulling capacity of Baotou, Inner Mongolia, has been suspended even more. This coincides with a statistical table of mass layoffs in the photovoltaic industry that has been circulated in various industry communities lately. This table details the production reduction, shutdown, layoffs, and other information of more than a dozen major photovoltaic manufacturers, and even details the number and proportion of layoffs, including many mainstream leading manufacturers. The photovoltaic industry, which has been booming for the past 3 years, has completely fallen and entered a price war, destocking and liquidation of production capacity. Li Zhengguo, the founder of Longji Green Energy, previously mentioned when announcing last year's third quarter financial report that by the end of 2023, solar projects that have attracted investment in many places will be left unfinished, and a large number of new production capacities under investment plans will have to be terminated. The warning is becoming reality. Walking around China, it's hard to miss the ubiquitous solar panels adorning rooftops and fields. China has now solidified its position as the world's largest market for photovoltaic applications. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, leveraging years of financial subsidies and domestically generated demand through policy directives, has nurtured the Chinese photovoltaic industry from its initial stages of material processing into the entire photovoltaic industry chain. Key players include Longji Green Energy Technology, a company covering the entire industry chain, Tongwei Corporation, specializing in silicon materials, Flat Glass, a leader in photovoltaic glass, and Hangzhou First, a major player in photovoltaic film. In the field of photovoltaic inverters, Huawei has consistently held the top position worldwide. In 2023, the term overcapacity was the keyword for photovoltaic professionals, especially in the latter part of the year. With the photovoltaic manufacturing industry operating at high levels, capacity expansion and continuous growth in production at all levels of the industry chain, the speed of decline in photovoltaic product prices has noticeably accelerated. Over the past year, the Chinese photovoltaic industry, whether in upstream silicon materials and silicon wafers or midstream cell and module segments, has gone through a process of blind expansion, overcapacity, and then painful adjustment. In these 4 core segments of the Chinese photovoltaic industry, their production capacity and output account for approximately 80% of the global total, with the silicon wafer segment reaching an astonishing 97%. Over half of the photovoltaic modules are exported to countries including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, Brazil, Chile, Peru, South Africa, and others. However, numerous Chinese companies have rapidly saturated all these markets. Photovoltaic silicon materials, specifically solar-grade multicrystalline silicon, are the raw materials at the upstream end of the photovoltaic industry chain. Since last year, the phenomenon of oversupply of silicon materials has become increasingly evident. According to SMM data, multicrystalline silicon production reached 1.2 million tons in the first 10 months of 2023, with a year-on-year increase of 92%. According to incomplete statistics from NE Salon, the nominal production capacity of global photovoltaic modules exceeded 1,000 gigawatts in 2023, but the global photovoltaic newly installed capacity in 2023 was less than 400 gigawatts. The predicted demand for global modules in 2024 is estimated to be between 450 to 500 gigawatts, meaning that over half of the module capacity will remain idle. The overcapacity has caused significant price drops across various segments of the photovoltaic industry chain in 2023, with silicon material prices dropping by more than 70%, and wafer, cell, and module prices all falling by around 50%. The price of photovoltaic modules, also known as solar cell modules, has reached its historic low. In just 1 year, in 2023, the price of photovoltaic modules has plummeted from around 2 yuan per watt to less than 1 yuan per watt, effectively halving the price. Liu Yuxi, president of LONGi Green Energy Technologies China region, stated at the Asia-Pacific Power Exhibition that the price drop has caused panic. The product prices for photovoltaic modules are already very low, and dropping below 1 yuan per watt means they have fallen below cost. Some insiders in the photovoltaic industry predict that the prices of photovoltaic modules may continue to decline, and it's possible that they could drop below 0.8 yuan per watt in 2024. A senior executive of a photovoltaic publicly traded company commented to mainland media, "With module prices so low now, some companies might be clearing their inventory. The price chaos in the module sector should only persist for a while. Right now, it can be said that every company is trying to endure, and after this period, prices should be able to return to normal. If module prices continue at their current levels, no company can sustain itself." On January 11th of this year, during a solar forum, Zhu Gongshan, the chairman of GCL Power, made a significant statement regarding the Chinese solar industry. He remarked, "The Chinese solar industry has experienced several cycles of ups and downs over the past 20 years. This time, the solar cycle is more intense than ever before. We haven't even enjoyed the good times before entering another harsh winter." He said, "Currently, from silicon materials to modules, there is an unprecedented excess of production capacity in the entire solar industry. This is a situation that has never occurred in the 20-year history of the photovoltaic industry. The current production capacity is already sufficient to meet the installation demand projected for 2030. Zhu Gongshan identified three main challenges that the solar industry is currently facing: overcapacity, declining prices due to increased production, capital constraints, and intense competition leading to the elimination of lower-end products. The radical expansion of the industry driven by Chinese government policies has not only resulted in overcapacity, but has also triggered a wave of layoffs and high levels of debt for solar companies. In the midst of this industry downturn, news of layoffs has become widespread. As one of the most representative companies in the industry, LONGi Green Energy Technology is rumored to be laying off 10,000 employees. Reports from Phoenix News confirmed the layoffs but cited normal organization optimization as the reason. Interestingly, just last year, LONGi Green Energy Technology was aggressively expanding its production capacity and recruiting talent, even venturing into the real estate sector. However, within less than a year, the solar market faced an unprecedented crisis, even affecting industry leaders like LONGi. Against the backdrop of falling prices across various segments of the industry, LONGi's market value also plummeted, with its Q3 2023 profits showing a 44% year-on-year decline. According to Phoenix News, LONGi's layoffs primarily target recent graduates and temporary workers who have been employed for less than 6 months. The exact number of layoffs is yet to be clarified. One of the laid-off employees, Mr. Dong Jian, revealed that he had seen the company's layoff plan in colleagues' emails as early as November of the previous year. Regarding the rumored 10,000 layoffs, Mr. Dong Jian learned from higher-ranking colleagues that the actual number might be even higher. He stated that the current motto is 3 people doing the work of 5 and earning the wages of 4. Recently, Li Zhengguo, LONGi's president, stated that the solar industry is facing severe overcapacity, and over the next 2 to 3 years, more than half of China's solar manufacturers may be forced to exit the market. LONGi is not the only company reducing production capacity. Others are following suit. As a leading solar cell manufacturer, Solar is reportedly planning a 30% reduction in production. East Hope, which specializes in heterojunction cells, is planning a 15% reduction, mainly targeting TOPCon cells. Companies like JA Solar and Trina Solar are also scaling back their production lines. Another high-ranking executive from a leading solar company told Chinese media on January 4th that they had noticed that many solar companies had already initiated layoffs and made timely adjustments to production capacity planning. This executive further stated that in 2023, with increased government funding from local governments, solar companies expanded production hastily, especially those entering the solar sector without building their technology or markets. Now some of these companies have suspended production or closed down. Besides overcapacity, there are other contributing factors to the industry's challenges. The international solar market has been affected by the US-China trade war, with the United States, European Union, and other countries imposing high tariffs on Chinese solar products, limiting their export. In addition, some less efficient companies cannot match the quality of mainstream products, forcing them to lower their prices. Amid the declining performance of the industry, solar companies are burdened with high debt levels. According to statistics from the industry media cited by Huanqiu Energy Network, as of the end of September 2023, the total debt of 118 solar companies reached a staggering 1.76 trillion yuan, 246 billion US dollars, with 24 companies having a debt ratio exceeding 70% and 4 companies exceeding 90%. Many solar companies that engaged in aggressive expansion over the past 2 decades are now facing the consequences. A total debt of 11 solar companies listed in the US reached nearly 150 billion US dollars. Suntech, once a prominent player, has a debt of $3.6 billion with an asset liability ratio of 82%, representing a typical case of high debt expansion. Industry experts note that in each cycle of overcapacity in the past 2 decades, there have been numerous bankruptcies and unfinished projects caused by excessive new production capacity. The solar industry is expected to undergo a significant transformation in 2024. Leading companies like JA Solar predict that in the next 6 to 12 months, second and third tier companies will have to reduce production, halt production, or even exit the industry, particularly around the traditional Chinese New Year period. Under the guidance of the Chinese Communist Party, solar power technology in China has rapidly evolved. Currently, green energy sources considered politically correct focus on the end result while downplaying the process. This means there is an emphasis on promoting the benefits of using renewable energy for environmental sustainability while overlooking or avoiding the environmental pollution and energy consumption during the production of these green energy sources. The solar industry, in both the production of silicon materials, panels, and cells, and the disposal of retired solar modules, poses significant ecological risks and pollution challenges to the environment. Multicrystalline silicon, a key material in solar panels, involves the use of toxic materials like hydrogen chloride in its production process, leading to the generation of toxic byproducts like silicon tetrachloride, which is highly toxic. Exposure or inhalation of toxic silicon tetrachloride can be irritating to the skin, eyes, and mucous membranes. Furthermore, the metallurgical production of silicon itself generates a considerable amount of toxic gases such as sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and carbon dioxide. While emissions may be relatively low individually, mass production of solar panels generates a significant volume of these gases, contributing to pollution issues like acid rain. The pollution and high energy consumption associated with solar products are often overlooked in China, with many solar companies failing to meet environmental standards. According to Interesting Engineering, an analysis of the environmental impact of solar panels by Canada Free Press in 2018 revealed that during the entire operational life cycle, each unit of electricity generated by solar panels produces 300 times more toxic waste than nuclear power plants. As large-scale solar power generation becomes more widespread globally, the retirement and disposal of old solar modules are expected to pose an unprecedented environmental challenge. The International Renewable Energy Agency predicts that China will generate a significant amount of retired solar modules starting 2025, with around 1.7 million metric tons expected to be discarded by 2030. These discarded modules will be distributed across 7.5 million acres of land, and without timely recycling and disposal, they could pose significant threats to the environment and human health. Reports from mainland Chinese media suggest that the solar panel lifespan is typically 20 to 25 years. Therefore, a significant wave of solar modules installed between 2000 and 2020 is expected to be retired soon. How China plans to manage the disposal of these retired solar panels remains a challenge. In the disposal process, solar panels were typically disposed of through burial, incineration, or other methods which are not environmentally friendly and have long degradation times. The recycling of discarded photovoltaic panels in China is hindered by high costs, low profits, and the lack of government subsidies. Few businesses are involved in this industry, and achieving commercial viability for recycling retired photovoltaic components is challenging. Recycling solar panels can be challenging due to the difficulty of dismantling them. Solar panels are often composed of multiple layers, with adhesives and films used to bond single crystal or multicrystalline silicon together, making disassembly difficult. As a result, many recycling efforts are limited to removing aluminum frames and electrical junction boxes, while the rest of the panel is typically crushed and sold of low-value particles or broken glass. Recycling other metals from solar panels would significantly increase costs, discouraging many companies from engaging in recycling efforts. Additionally, there is currently no mandatory policy from the Chinese government regarding producer or operator responsibility for solar panel recycling, creating a gap in this aspect of the process. This means that a significant portion of retired solar panels either piles up at solar facilities or is disposed of as general waste due to the absence of regulation. He Shuangquan, the president of Suntech Power, pointed out in a paper that the value of materials that can be extracted from a retired solar module, such as aluminum and silver, is approximately 56.5 yuan, or $8.20. However, the cost of recycling each module is roughly 75 yuan, approximately $11. Therefore, if recycling operates purely based on market mechanisms, companies would find it challenging to survive. He further explained that the difficulty of recycling solar modules, high logistics costs, immature recycling technologies, high capital consumption, low purity of recycled materials, and the lack of scale all contribute to the high recycling cost. Fang Qi, an investment consultant residing in the UK, stated that the recycling of solar panels is a problem that China cannot avoid. In recent years, China has rapidly expanded its solar production capacity, but the quality and standards of solar panels have been inconsistent. Although solar panels are marketed as having a 25-year lifespan, many products do not meet the standard, resulting in a 30% retirement rate in recent years. Fang Qi explained that most of China's solar production capacity is controlled by state-owned enterprises or large private companies, which are not highly motivated to recycle modules. Therefore, retired solar materials are typically subcontracted multiple times and eventually handed over to small workshops in rural areas for simple processing. This involves manually smashing the panels, detaching plastic and aluminum frames for sale, and often incinerating or burying other waste materials without incurring environmental costs. Many of these workshops are not equipped to handle recycling efficiently. Fang Qi says manufacturers are not enthusiastic about recycling solar panels. Government subsidies may be needed, but even with them, panels are often subcontracted to rural workshops for fraudulent subsidies. The industry's low profit margins make additional environmental expenses a potential threat to private enterprises.